Is this thing working? Are we live? It looks like we're live. What's happening, everybody? I hope everybody is having a fantastic, whatever day you're watching this. If you are new to my channel, this is Two Wheel Tuesdays, doing a live show talking mainly about motorcycles on Tuesdays. And this is basically just a background noise generator about motorcycle stuff. So if you're doing something else, this is playing in the background, and it's basically about as exciting as watching paint dry. But every once in a while, we'll have some things going on in the background, and I'll be doing some screen share stuff like that. But for the most part, this is my opportunity to interact directly with you guys. So jump in the chat. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And it's also an opportunity to work through topics that didn't quite make it to an actual video, and just to kind of work through different things that may be coming up here in the near future on the channel, and to expand upon some other videos that I've put out along the way. So let me check in with you guys real quickly. Marco is in. Oh, got the flex. I like it. Marco's saying he got a C8. Very nice. Marco's saying, looking for a truck. What should I get? Depends on what kind of truck you are looking for and what is going to fit your needs, my friend. Anything from a Tacoma to, I don't know if I can sign off on one of the new Rams just yet. Too many electrical glitches. Although Pearl just did go a 1284 and an 813 in the 8. So the trucks run really good when you put a little love into them, but man, it just depends on what you are going for. Bruce saying TRX. Yeah, TRX would be nice, but I got to tell you, man, the TRXs are great. But I don't know, there's other trucks out there. And again, it just depends on what's going to suit your needs the best. And Cody is in. So checking in with you guys real quickly. So one of the things that I wanted to talk a little bit about is the most recent addition to the fleet, which is the GSXR 600. And I got to tell you guys, I'm having more fun reconnecting with the 600 than I've had with pretty much any other bike that I've been riding lately. Hold on, wait. Just kidding, sweetheart. Anyway, you get the idea. It's an amazing opportunity that was given to me by my good friends over at Stub Cycles. When this particular 600 showed up, I had already put the APB out that I wanted to get a 600. I had done a couple of ride and reviews with the GSXR 600 leading up to this. As you guys know, I had that 636, and man, I kept thinking about the GSXR 600, and that's one of the things that I wanted to check. Hey, DM is in. What is going on? Got the ball guy with the flex and the specs. I like it. What I wanted to talk about though is like, what was some of the story behind moving away from the 636 and really leaning into the GSXR 600? Because and this could end up being a future video, but for you guys that like to get on to the live show, I like to try to get you guys some behind the scenes stuff. And I was having a hard time working through talking this point out. But anyway, because I've kind of already hit on this a lot before, but anyway, better fit, all that kind of good stuff, right? Well, when this 600 had come up, I immediately got the phone call saying, hey, this thing is hitting inventory. What do you think? And I got the pics of it, and it was weird that it was the exact 600 that I was looking for. Like, it wasn't like the 600 I was looking for. This 600 is literally the exact year, the exact colorway, the exact everything that I wanted. So, I mean, I just said, sold, don't care. I don't care what's wrong with it. If there's anything wrong with it, I know how to fix it. Just wrap it up. Let's do this. And So get the bike, get the tires on the thing, you know, just give it a good solid once over. Was able to get the bike out, and I haven't posted the video because, well, actually, I posted it. It's just not public yet. I did a quick, like, how do I put this? It was kind of a, and I'm debating on even publishing this, but it's a quick run through the gears on the bike. And I go first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and I just hold it on the rev limiter in six. Well, it's really not on the rev limiter. It's on in the tune where the throttle blades fold back. So you can call it like a soft rev limiter. And I just hold it at 13.7 in sixth gear. And if you're doing the math on that, roughly 13.5 to 13.7 is about 155 miles an hour ish. It's maybe a little bit more, but it's more than 152, 153. Okay. And I just kind of park it there for about 3 or 4 seconds. And I'm just going, this is exactly the most fun thing I've ever done ever with a bike. Just riding that 600, because you just hold it. It's at the top of its gear. It's pulling what is in essence a stock soft rev limiter with on at, I don't even know what it was indicating, because the screen itself, you can't see it on camera, and I'm not looking down at the speedometer. I'm looking ahead, and it's at night. And so it's probably indicating like 165 or 167 or something like that. It's not going that fast. It would have GPS'd out at about, I want to say 155 if I did the math right. And I was just like, man, this is exactly the kind of fun that I don't get to have with the leader bikes anymore. And it's one of those things where I look at my 1000 and I just go, what are you here for? Like, I don't, now that I'm riding GSXR 750s and 600s, I've had my 636, which again, absolutely love that bike. It just didn't fit right. And to the new owner that bought it, I mean, congratulations on literally getting the best 636 that money could possibly buy, the way I had that thing set up. But got a steal on it. But anyway, the bottom line here is that the more bikes that I ride, the more you do start to kind of funnel down into the bikes that you will really look forward to riding. Like, I can't wait to do X, Y, or Z. And it's a toss-up right now. I mean, it's like having a fishbowl party with my motorcycle keys over here between the middleweights. I just absolutely love the fact that you can go out and have a ball with these things, and they don't beat you up. You can ride them for longer distances and all of that. So I guess where I'm going with this is, you know, the more that I'm around these middleweights, the more I'm really starting to get them. And I understand why guys like them so much. But it also brings me to kind of a weird place. You know, I did that video where I say, you know, you can't, they say you can't go home, right? That whole video. And it's interesting because there was so much more that I wanted to try to expand upon in that. And I intentionally started that video off with kind of a very slow cadence, you know, just kind of walking through what does it mean when they say you can't go home, get through the full explanation, because I know a lot of people have never heard that phrase before, and then immediately get into talking about the bike. But I kind of slow played that. And the reason, there's a little bit of a reason behind that, because what I didn't want to do, and one of the problems that I was going to find myself with that video, so this is some of the behind the scenes on that, is that I didn't want to fall into the trap of bringing up the RCR 990 from KTM, the R9 or the V2 Panigale versus the 600s. And the reason why I didn't want to get into that is because, you know, as I'm riding the GSXR 600 and I'm talking through all of the points, it got me to thinking that, and this is something that I didn't mention in that video, and it's kind of a shame, but if you are of a certain age, right, and you grew up with these 600 Super Sports, and like, let's say we're talking, you know, and I say Super Sports, but I'm also including like the Honda CBR 600 F4i, the older Hurricane 600. We're talking the older Ninja 600s and, you know, the like, right? But if we're talking about those bikes, one of the things that it kind of dawned on me is that if you were to go from, and it wouldn't be a Ninja 400 because you would naturally not want a parallel twin or a triple after having a Ninja 400. You're going to level into at least a 636, if not a GSXR 750. But what if you started out with a different kind of bike? Like, what if you started out with, say, a V-Strom 800 that has a nice parallel twin? You might be real attracted to that KTM. And you get the KTM and you're riding that thing, and you would never get a chance to experience what it's like to be on one of these just howling 4-cylinder bikes. And these that's another thing. It's like, it's not only you can't go home, but you can't go back to school. This is another phrase. You can't go back to school. There's a whole thing that goes along with that too. But the point is that it's like where you start from really does dictate how your motorcycle journey goes. And I was just thinking, man, if somebody started off on something like a GSX 8R, or let's say a Hornet 750, and you've got this bug now for parallel twins that we're all kind of being, exposed to, your first thought is going to be about that KTM, isn't it? I mean, it's a parallel twin, makes, about 115, 117 horsepower to the rear tire. So it's no slouch. I mean, it's not that far removed from a GSXR 750, but it's not going to hang with a GSXR 750. But you get the idea. I mean, it's the parallel twin version, though, of this. And I kept thinking about that. I was like, man, I started off on 4-cylinder Japanese sport bikes, and I just kept progressing through 4-cylinder Japanese bikes, right? But these newer kids, or newer riders, or newer to this, I guess I should say, you're going to get started on a parallel twin and you're going to kind of gravitate towards that. And I just wonder what the perception of those guys would be if they were to ride a GSXR 600, or if they were to ride a GSXR 750, probably more to the point on the 750, because it's just kind of an interesting thing for me, the way that this whole journey has changed for guys. And I just also was wondering too, where does that leave the R9 in all of this? We're talking about these middleweights. There's not really a clear advantage here. I'm going to take the 750 out of this equation for just a minute, because none of the middleweights can hang with the GSXR 750 from a top speed perspective. From just, there's a lot. The GSXR 750 is a cheat code, but they're all of the 600 / RCR 990s, which is a 950, whatever. Anyway, the R9, V2 Panigale, they all share roughly the same top speed, right? They're all going to run somewhere between 150 and 65 miles per hour, depending on how they're geared. And I'm leaving the 636 out of this portion of the chat too, because as aggressively geared as it is, it isn't going to go any faster than about 140, 142. But the only reason why I'm bringing up top speed is because it comes up and the question comes up, but it also is an indicator of just how buzzy the thing may be to go from point A to point B for, say, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour, just how taxing that can be. So when you are taking all of that into account, what really is the best middleweight out there? What's the best bang for the buck? Now, this is when everybody gets thrown back into the mix. And, you can say the 636, well, it looks great on paper. It doesn't necessarily fit everybody. It's a bigger bike dimensionally. The suspension is softer. Is it better? I don't know, but I can tell you this, a lot of people love that bike. But I'm just curious as to why is it that you don't see the 636 versus the R9, right? And you never really see, there's maybe one or two videos that are out that I've seen where the GSXR 750 was put up against those bikes. And I don't think it was given the right shot. I can tell you that if I am put on a GSXR 750 on track, then put on an R9, then put on a KTM, it would be the Gixxer's race to lose. And I know that a lot of folks will say, well, those other bikes make a bunch more torque. Here's the problem. They'll show you the dyno chart without explaining speed. And they're not showing mile per hour. They're showing RPM, which is absolutely dumb. You've got to put the things in basically the same gear and have true twist, not torque, show on the dyno. Is there any way to do that? You'd think that there would be. But I can promise you this. I've ridden the GSXR 750 a lot, but I've also ridden the XSR 900, which is the best avatar for the R9. I know what that bike runs like, and it doesn't run anything like a GSXR 750. It's not even close. So I don't even know if the R9 is really worth being put in the same conversation as the RCR 990 from KTM, because that's the only bike that is as close to the GSXR 750 as you're going to get in terms of power and how that thing is going to get down. But again, it's a completely different way of doing business. It's a 950 something cc parallel twin, lots of torque, what they would call lots of usable power. I don't know. I seem to use a lot of all the power that I got with the 750 though. There's a lot of things that you can talk about with that bike and be optimistic. And I think of these super middleweights, the only one that is really catching my attention anymore is the KTM. And I find even that funny. I've never thrown a leg over an R9. And for me, the fit and the way that the bike feels is one of the most important aspects of that bike. And you know what's interesting is that the KTM, to me, it feels so much like the CF Moto 675 with how wide the bars are, the way that the rider triangle feels and all of that. It is so far not the same as the GSXR 750 that I could completely see somebody sit on a GSXR 750, it not fit them well, them get on an RCR, that bike fit them beautifully, and they would never look back, and they would have a like performing motorcycle to the GSXR 750, at least on a lot of levels. May not be a direct line of sight, but it's a lot closer than the other bikes that are out there. And that is one of the things that I guess I'm the most excited about. But you don't ever see, here's the other thing, you don't see the 600s compared to them. Mainly because the 600s don't have any of the technology. The CBR 600 in the States doesn't, and the GSXR 600 obviously doesn't either. But man, I've got to tell you, I'm spending a lot of time with that 600 lately, and I am never left disappointed with the performance of that bike. I am so in love with my 600. So again, I wonder, when we're talking about these middleweights, I've really been struggling with this because here's the thing. Come this spring, my 1000 is probably going away. And the reason for that is, man, I can't justify having a bike that I'm just not having the same amount of fun with. It's about smiles per hour, not miles per hour. And, I was mentioning top speeds earlier. I don't really find myself above 165 miles an hour indicated very regularly. Well, with this bike I do, but with the 1000, if I'm not up above 150 indicated, I almost feel like I'm not riding the bike. What's the point of having it? In other words, if I've got the power and I can't, or I'm not using it regularly, And for me, it's just, haul ass to the next turn, drop the thing in, have a blast, wee, fun. And then that's it, But the thing is with the 1,000 is powering out of the corners. That's where you know where your money's spent. Except when I ride the gray bike. So you don't forget, that's not the only 750 in the fleet. I've got the gray GSXR 750 that does have a re-gear. It's running a 190/55 rear tire. And that thing is really good on corner exit, third gear corner exit drive that it's got. Not that the blue bike doesn't have it either, but I'm just saying. So for me, I find myself, I look at the GSXR 1000 and I love that bike. I really do. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, man, I know that every time I ride it, I spend $13 in gas and $15 in tires. Every single tank that's the math behind it, by the way. And so anyway, if that bike goes away, do I replace it with something? And I'm starting to do that whole funnel down thing. And I'm going, man, there could be some other bikes out there that I would have a lot more fun with that may be good for the channel. And the KTM was the only bike that was new that I could try to bend my head around to think that it would be a good decision to bring one on for the channel. And so I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but of the middleweights that are out there, it's the only one that really gets my attention, which I guess makes sense. I mean, where it falls in line power-wise and all of that, but I don't know. We'll see. You never know with me. I mean, I get a wild hair at my ass, and who knows what'll show up over here, but this is just what's been on my mind. And by the way, this is me. This is the part where I say, this is where I'm trying to work on a standalone video, and I can't collect all my thoughts. Has it been kind of clear that I have really been scatterbrained trying to talk through this point? This is how the filming of one of these things goes. So, after 30 takes of me, staring into the same, dot on the camera. Anyway, so this is the area for me where I'm like, what do I do with this? How do I navigate the waters of these middleweights? Because the 1000's probably going to be going away. And I don't know that I've got the heart to get rid of my gray GSXR 750 because I freaking love that bike. But I don't really need two 750s in the fleet, but that one is exceptionally well put together. But let me check in with you guys. Let's see, where do we leave off? Oh yeah, Bruce telling Marco to get a TRX. TRX, good truck. DM's in. Matt is in. What is up? Matt's saying, well, bang for your buck is all subjective. 100% it is. Yeah. DM saying in 1999, Kawasaki had a ZX900R. It wasn't 1,000. Leader Bikes trounced it. It's the R9, Yamaha's Mistake 900. Is the R9? See, DM, that's a great question. So here's the other problem. Let's not forget, guys, I still have my dad's bike. And my dad's bike is a 1998 Triumph T595. It's the chassis designation. It's like Z28 for a Camaro. But it's a 955cc triple. It weighs a little bit more than the R9, but it makes a little bit more torque, and it's not that far off in terms of horsepower. It's practically identical. It's functionally identical. By the way, that was thunder. It is raining its arse off out here. But if I want an R9 riding experience, guys, you guys have seen Dad's bike. And there is absolutely no reason to bring an R9 into the fleet when I've got Dad's bike, which is going to basically be the same in terms of acceleration and all of that. It won't have the same handling capabilities or anything like that. But, that's the thing. To me, oh my gosh, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say it because, look, Yamaha can't seem to make any of those bikes, and whatever ones that they're making aren't selling right now. Here's what I'm going to say about the R9. To DM's point, yes, that is a freaking awesome analogy, and I love that. It is their ZX9. It doesn't really, it kind of falls into a class, but it doesn't. It's going to get just, it's going to get absolutely pissed on by GSXR 750. I'll tell you something else. After riding the XSR 900, don't let me see. I'm such a jerk for saying. If I'm on my 600 and I see an R9, oh, shit. Hope you brought your skill set. I'm sorry, but there is nothing about that R9 that is going to bother me. I would love to ride one. I really would, because I don't want to send that bike to the scrap yard in my brain based solely on the riding experience of the XSR 900, which, by the way, I love that bike. This is not some kind of, indictment on the R9 to say that it's like the XSR 900. That bike won Sport Naked or Naked Bike of the Year for the channel. But the thing is that it's not a sport bike. And I fear, and where I was going with this whole parallel twin with a GSX-8R, then you move into the KTM, where I was going with that is you're never going to get a chance to feel what it's like to be on one of the 4-cylinder super sports. And you won't there. It's intoxicating the way that those bikes ride. And I just feel like it's a little bit too, parallel twins are a little bit too polite when it comes to that kind of bike. I need something that is, you know what I mean? So see how hard it is to try to put together a video. Anyway, that's the reason why when I'm looking at the R9, that's one of the reasons why it doesn't ever really come up on my radars, because I've already kind of ridden that bike in a way. Plus, I've got that bike in essence in the garage. It's a great torquey motorcycle, that Daytona is, but I have a feeling it's going to lack the excitement of a 4-cylinder. And that's the whole driving point of it, the howl, the noise, all of that. So anyway, let me check back in with you guys. Oh, Chef saying GSXR 750 is flagship. I tell you what, designed to compete. Here's the funny thing. It's designed, it is ready to compete. When the hell are other manufacturers going to take a page out of Suzuki's playbook and start making a 750cc bike? I have said this over and over and over again. I absolutely love the Gixxer middleweights, in particular the GSXR 750. Although, I mean, if you hand me the keys to my 600, I'm a happy boy. But here's the thing. They're the only manufacturer making a bike like this. And the argument to that is, well, emissions. Emissions? Look, Suzuki, in whatever markets they sell this bike, they sell every single one of them that they make. All of them. And you've got bikes that are amazing, like the Yamaha R6, arguably the best 600 of the bunch, but costs so much that Yamaha just can't sell it in limited markets, ergo the R9. Anyway, but you've got other manufacturers, like Honda still makes the older CBR 600 for the North American market. How hard would it be, Honda, to just a little bit bigger on the cylinder, just a little bit longer on the stroke, leave everything else alone, send it off in the world as a CBR 750? You don't have to worry about emissions crap or anything like that. It's just North American market, have it be Euro 4 compliant. It should be able to just happen like that. And it drives me nuts that Honda, of all the companies that could do it, hasn't done it. And then there's Kawasaki, which, love them or hate them, for whatever reason, can't seem to figure out that the Z900 would do so well with clip-ons and a fairing that it blows my mind that they don't. Make it a GPZ 900 and send that out into the world. Anyway, I guess where I'm going with this is that there's not any 900s anymore, and there's not any 750s, where there used to be at least some that don't exist anymore. And it sucks because the 750s are so good. Let's see. Oh, so the first bike was a triple head 500cc H1 wheelie bars. Nice. Dubs, I've been riding dirt bikes for years. Do you recommend switching to sport bikes? Man, Dub, I'll tell you what, man, whatever fits you best. That's what I recommend. Yeah, sport bikes, that's what fits me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it fits you. You might, if you've been on dirt for a long time, you might take a look at the Triumph Street Triple. That might be a better bike for you. That bike has the old 675 Daytona chassis swing arm. It's got the 765 triple. It's got regular handlebars on it. Or if you want one with clip-ons, they make those too. There's a host of bikes that you might like more than sport bikes, but it's a process. You just need to try them on. Don't feel bad and don't be surprised if the bike that you think that you're going to like ends up not feeling right when you sit on it. A lot of times it's the bike that you don't even realize is the one that fits you best. It's however you're wired, that's the right bike for you. I'll give you an example. I personally am very uncomfortable on bikes that are more upright. I don't feel right on that. It doesn't, my wiring doesn't allow for that. Being more in a committed posture, I'm just much more comfortable there. I know a lot of guys complain about wrists or whatever. I've never had that issue. In fact, when I'm more upright, I have more like back issues when I'm more of in an upright bike. So, what works for me doesn't necessarily work for everybody, and that's why they make so many different types of motorcycles. Matt saying, hate the pillion. Oh, talking about, I guess you're talking about the the RCR. Yeah, that pillion seat is, who came up with that? So saying the H1 was a monster. Oh yeah, those older H1s are nasty. Chef's checking in with Miki. Yeah, Matt saying, plus good luck finding an R9 right now. No kidding. The funny thing is, so there are some dealerships that are starting to get them in, and there's no weight on them anymore. The hype train done gone and left that station. And more to that point, there's more and more guys that are getting a little bit turned off by that bike. I think that there was a lot of a buildup there. There was a lot of expectation. So many people were calling it Yamaha's Daytona, and it didn't quite work out that way. X is checking in saying, came across your channel and live by chance. Interesting. I ride a 1300 V-Star myself. Very nice. Fun bike. Torquey bike. You know what's funny about the V-Stars? I always like those bikes. And the weird thing about V-Star, by the way, is the ergonomics on those things are surprisingly good. I've been a couple of V-Stars at the shop. Saying R9 has nothing on my Busa. I tell you what, y'all, listen, don't be shocked. Okay, so if the 1,000 goes away, man, you never know what can take its place. And the other bike that I've kind of got a bit of a shine to is the 3rd gen Hayabusa. I know that the 2nd gen is the one that you can make all the powers with, but that's really not why I would be getting a Hayabusa. I just really like the 3rd gens. I like riding them. They're one of the most comfortable motorcycles for me to ride. And it's something just so, how do I put this, man? There's something just endearing about that bike. And I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't tune it. I'd maybe put a slip on, a couple of slip ons on it, and just ride it and enjoy it. I absolutely adore the third gen Hayabusa in a way that I probably shouldn't, but there's something endearing about a bike like that, that you can park it at 150 miles an hour and just eat up real estate with that thing. And that gray third gen at the shop, I'm like, oh God, somebody come buy this freaking thing before it just ends up, you'll see it sitting behind me at one point. But I love third gen Hayabusas like you would not believe. I have a weird thing for third gen Hayabusas. Oh, Mr. Say, I missed that black CBR 600 that you reviewed from Stubbs. Might get a CF Moto 675. The sound of the 600 is my favorite. You know what's funny is that bike's still up there. It's still for sale. Good deal on it too. I really like that bike. And the thing is that bike, CBRs are kind of funny. The CBR 600, if you compare it to the GSXR 600, the CBR is going to be a little bit gruntier still. It's the gruntiest of the 600s. The GSXR is probably R9 notwithstanding, or R6, I should say, notwithstanding, is the compromise between the CBR and the R9. It'll rev out a little bit better than the CBR, I feel. And I feel like it certainly makes better top end power than the CBR, but nothing revs out like an R6. But that being said, R6s are for some folks an acquired taste, just because, I mean, look, R6s with pipe tune and gear are really hard to deal with on track. Let me just put it to you that way. I don't care what you're riding. Ball's asking, don't you feel like you're utilizing all the power on that 1,000 when you're putting some insane power wheelies? I say keep the Gixxer 1K. The problem with the Gixxer 1K is, and that's one of the things I like doing with it. It's fun to get the bike out. Y'all see me on that thing, third gear rolling into the throttle, kind of snapping the throttle open. It'll bring the front tire up a little bit, just roll into the throttle and just power wheelie it. That's a leader bike thing to do. I love riding that bike, but the problem is that I should keep it as a tool in my tool chest just to keep my skill sets with a leader bike alive and kicking, right? But the more I'm doing testing tunes, snap back in the day, the more I'm doing ride reviews, the less, we just don't have a ton of leader bikes that show up. And the ones that do, it's not like it's foreign territory to go out there and ride them. But the problem with the leader bikes is that to be able to manage the kind of speeds that those bikes will get to. Oh yeah. And I was talking about speeds. Yeah. Middleweight's about 165 miles per hour. Again, I just don't feel right if I don't clip about 165 every time I ride my 1,000. It's going to happen. I promise you. And it's not like I'm going 165. It's just we're going 165. And you can get there just by fanning through the gears and not overtaxing the chassis. The thing about that bike, though, is that it will absolutely beat the living hell out of me when I'm going from where I'm at to where I want to be to go riding. It's about an hour and 15 minutes ride through parts of town that just don't have smooth roads. The highways, you get the expansion joints, imperfections or whatever. And the leader bikes, as a general rule, just kind of beat the hell out of you, where the middleweights is like, it's like you're riding in a car almost. Boss saying the Triumph Rocket 3 is a blast if you're a torque junkie. Haven't ridden a Rocket 3. I need to. Matt saying, I think a lot of people got overhyped on the R9 as track riders. You know, R6s were dead for so long. It seems like lots of people just expected it to be everything to everyone. Well, there was that. Um, you know, the problem with the R9 is that it was marketed on track. Remember, like the when that bike was first being let out into the world, it was nothing but track images. The bike was track prepped, and you know, it was billed as, maybe not directly marketed as, the replacement for the R6. And people would kind of rationalize that away. They would say, well, it's making about the same power as the R6. It's making about, you know, I don't know, 10 more pound feet of torque, 12 more pound feet of torque than the R6. It's got to be better, right? Well, they didn't take into account weight or gearing or rider position or familiarity or how that bike puts down power. It's not about spec sheets with motorcycles. And this is where a lot of guys get really super confused. You know, if it fits within the category, and it's, again, you'll hear me say height weight proportionate, meaning that the bike is the right shape, it's got about the right weight, and it's got about the right power, it's got about the right riding position. Certain nuances are going to be what makes the bikes interesting one to the next. So there, for me, there's not a power play there. I don't really, I'm not a power guy. That power doesn't really impress me. It's how well does the bike deal with the power? How balanced is that power? Big case in point is the Hayabusa versus my GSXR 1000. That Hayabusa, I can have it pinned rowing through the gears, and it is as smooth as my GSXR 600 or my 750. The 1000, on the other hand, is frantic. It feels it. This is with a pipe and a tune, though, not a stock bike. So I want to make sure that's out there, because I'll be honest with you, there is nothing more fun to ride and adorable to ride than like a stock R1, right? Or a stock GSXR 1000. They are so fun to ride. But once you get past that 175 horsepower to the rear tire, there's like this invisible wall. And you just kind of, once you go past that event horizon, it's a different bike, and it starts to act differently when you put it under load. And this is where rear suspension tuning, you got to get really smart with that and really good, because what you don't want is to have a bike that starts getting a little bit overly communicative at, say, 170, 160 miles an hour, especially when you're really hard on the throttle. When you're not hard on the throttle, they're smooth as silk. It's when you're under hard load. That's when things get interesting with leader bikes. And it's not so much that it's a bad thing. It's just, you got to know that it's coming and it's part of the equation. And even that would be, it would be, you could deal with it, it'd be serviceable if it just didn't beat me up on the way to wherever I'm going. And to get it to where it's stable at high speeds, it's going to be a little bit rough at the lower speeds. But with the GSXR 750, I mean, it'll still do 170 miles an hour. It's just a lot smoother in going about it. And it's just because it's not putting the chassis and everything into, you know, under so much tension and stress to get there. It just takes longer to get there, but it'll still do it, and it's still really good. Matt's saying, I adore Toothless, but I'm not a track guy. It has more meaning to me, um, being the big brother to my old R3. It has so much more power than my previous 650. I'm smitten. And see, for Matt, Matt's got, by the way, guys, Matt has an R9. And the thing is, and this is, and I commend Matt very much. He was very honest with his assessment of that bike in one of the previous live shows. And I think that for Matt, that bike is the best bike for you. I really honestly do. I'm not saying there's not a place for it, but I would far rather see Matt with his experience on motorcycles have an R9 than to have a GSXR 750. Mainly because you can work on your lines and you can work on your skill set with an R9 in a much more controlled and at safer speeds than what you're going to see me do with the 600s and the 750s, even when I'm just out playing around on them. To build up to that, that's where the R9 shines. And I would like for it to be a little bit, and this is like, you'll hear guys say that this is the bike that you want to get you into sport bikes. That's what the 600 was for me. And a lot of folks would say, oh, you're just going to get tired of that 600. It's not making enough power. Matt, they're going to say the same thing to you about that R9. Here's what I would challenge you to do. Don't get rid of your R9 ever, because that is for me, Gixxer 600. And I think that if you ever did, that would be the bike that you regretted ever getting rid of. If you ever decide to get another bike after that, like say you want to really step up into the power, you want to do something else, I would get that bike cleaned up, get it freshened up, whatever. But just remember that that bike is still there to teach you everything that you're going to need to know about the next level up that you're going to get into. And a lot of that is just how these bikes make power. But anyway, I'll just PSA to you, man, because like I say, I've got my 600 back, so to speak, and I am absolutely in love with it. And I know what I can do with it. And I know that it is just so much fun. So, Gypsy saying, I spot a pretty girl. I love my 750. Cheers, mate. Cheers. There she is. That's my baby. There she is. I love that bike. Show saying, I have a Gen 2 Busa modified and will race anything. I get it. The thing about the Hayabusa, man, I'm telling you, you don't really there's not a lot of prep that you've got to do to it. They're so stable, and I get it. Leader bikes have come so far, and you line up a strapped and dropped Gixxer 1000 up against a Busa, and I understand how all this goes, but man, give me the Busa. I'd rather have the Busa because I could literally sip a cup of coffee blasting through the gears on a Busa and not have to worry about anything. I won't have to worry about any drama with that bike. I'm going to get out on whatever bike that's behind me, and it's going to be their race to try to get around me. But yeah, give me the Busa over the 1000cc, especially if we're talking about, doing roll racing and top end stuff. I know that they're heavy, and I know all of that. I get it. But the reality is that I just really like that bike. OMR saying that Gixxer 750 is smoother than the 1000. It's smoother than the 1000 at any RPM. Absolutely. Dusty saying thumbnail is hilarious. It's that's actually the thumbnail is me on a frog. Me all leaned over. That's at a park in Northern California. And saying anytime. Hell yeah. I like it. DM saying it's a great point. Ride the bike you love. Listen, here's the other thing. Yeah. Don't ever get suckered into this is me, Uncle, B Mason over here. Uncle Cyclemoto. Here's the deal. Don't let anybody sucker you or talk you into a bike that you're just not all that about. You see this a lot. And also, and I've said this a lot in the past, but it really does hold true for anybody that is like a third or a fourth year rider, where you've been riding and you've started to develop the abilities to do some things with the bike. You're a little bit skittish though. Because if there's anything that'll humble you, it's riding motorcycles. There's nothing that will absolutely display your skill set in Technicolor like motorcycle stuff. But it's funny because when you are when you're learning and you're at that stage where you're getting the bike on the side of the tire, you're getting a lot more comfortable with that. You're actively not target fixating. You're going to move through that part of your learning curve, and you're just going to get to where you're always looking where you want to go, and that you will have already seen that area where you're basically like 2 or 3 seconds ahead of yourself where you're looking. And once you get to that point, whatever bike that you like to ride, you're going to be quick on that bike. You're going to be confident with that bike. You're going to be comfortable on that bike. You're going to be safe at any speed on that bike. And what I've discovered, and this is something, this is going back a ways, but DM was on, we were on the live show, just kind of chatting back and forth a little bit. And one of the things that I'd said is, it's weird. I forget how long I've been around bikes and how long that, the track day thing and doing the BNC road thing and doing the up in the mountains and up in the woods and stuff. And I forget that I'm not in my head going that fast. But if you look at the pace that I'm at, it's kind of fast. And I'm the slowest guy in the group that I ride with, by the way. I'm first to admit it. And but it's a hell of a fast group. And but when you start to, you're so much safer of a rider. You're not, so the pace, it looks fast, but you're not fast because you're just kind of flowy. You're just kind of doing your thing, right? And that's the point that you want to get to, and you'll get there so much faster on a bike that you're comfortable with. And don't level up if you don't feel comfortable leveling up. Don't do it. There's no need to. And by the way, I said in that video about the you can never go home video with the GSXR 600, at the very end of that video, I'm sincere when I say I hope that you're having the same amount of fun with your bike that I have with mine. I hope you are, and I hope that fun never goes away for you, because there's nothing more enjoyable than being on a motorcycle, right? But the thing is that I admitted in that video, when I went away from that bike, this is why I was telling Matt, don't get rid of your R9. Because when I moved away from the 600s and started getting more into like RC51, GSXR 1000, GSXR 750, what happened was I don't feel like I learned everything that I should have learned. I ended up learning all of that with these bigger bikes. And some would say that was probably a good thing because I leveled up and it's more powerful. RC51 is a tank. And so you get to where you can muscle that thing around. Anyway, I guess the point that I'm getting to is all of them are fast. When you get to about 110 horsepower at the rear tire, you are no longer on a slow machine. You're not. That is a bike that will easily propel you to 130, 140 miles an hour, at least, even if it's a naked bike. So, a lot of folks really do get tied up in the power numbers. And, a lot of times the straight is just getting me to the fun part, which is where I get to start flicking the bike around. So, and for me, it's power out of the corner. And that's where I start having fun. So then outright power just doesn't, it's a little bit wasted on me, I guess. Although I do with that 1000, I love the little power wheelies coming out of corners and leaving a patch as it drifts out a little bit on its line. But, does he say, oh, it's a frog? I thought it was a snail. I really like the ZX14R. They are a sport touring bike like the Busa. ZX14 is a great bike. There's a lot of guys that love that bike. Mr. Say, yep, your group is really fast. Yep. Smooth is fast. Yes. Yes, it is. Chef saying, I raised my Busa to compete with ZX14, still haven't lost. I tell you what's funny. The Busa, the Busa is a funny bike because it's so grunty. And the 14, the thing about the 14 is that it's the only bike that can compete with the Busa in the Busa's category, whatever that is. And I can't get, I understand the 14s. I love the 14s. They're an interesting bike and all. But for me, man, I mean, dude, you know what I'm wearing. It's got to be a Busa, baby. Come on now. And I don't even care if I was on a Busa and I was playing around with it and I had a 14 come around me, I wouldn't give a shit because I'd be too busy having fun on a Busa. So saying, yeah, but the ZX14 looks cooler. I don't know, man. I love them all. Oh, ZX14's out of production. Yeah, I don't, man, it's just bikes like that don't really sell. But here's the thing, the Busa. So here's a funny thing about the Busa, Gixxer middleweights. You know, the interesting thing is, and you guys have heard me say this before, but Busas are always popular sellers, and so are the Gixxer middleweights. And believe it or not, if I were to tell you, hey, if I were to tell you, Hayabusa fan, hey, Suzuki is going to put a big TFT screen in that thing and it's going to get, I don't know, start picking technology out or whatever. Busa Nation would probably collectively lose their shit because every buyer that, like, if you go to the reps and ask the Suzuki reps, hey, what are the buyers that buy these bikes? What are they really looking for? They want a Hayabusa. It's what, or they want a Gixxer 750. It's kind of like this. It would be like if a manufacturer still made, I don't know, pick a car that you really like. 69 Chevelle. I don't know. I'm just the first car that popped into my head. And let's say Chevrolet still made the 1969 Chevelle and they still made the 1968 Camaro. Okay. That's like, you know, big body car, little body car, right? Busa, Gixxer middleweight. And you go, oh, well, they never did update the 69, you know, Chevelle, or they never did update the 68 Camaro. And you're going, yeah, that's kind of the point. That's what we wanted to buy. If we wanted to buy something newer, we would buy something newer. That's where Suzuki is with those three bikes. They are not going to update them because the people that buy them aren't looking for updated bikes. And so they just keep making Busas because they keep selling them. And even though the Hayabusa technically, I guess, bike to bike is supposed to be slower than the 14, the guys that buy Busas couldn't care less. They're too busy having fun on their Busa, right? So that's the thing. And again, it's never about outright power, whose bike is faster when it comes to motorcycles, because all of that is so subjective. And it's just funny when we're talking about different bikes and how people gravitate to one versus another, how the spec sheet quit mattering when you throw a leg over it, fire it up, and take it for a spin. DM saying, so your RC51 was your training bike. It kind of was in a way. Oh, Matt saying, yeah, I did a few pulls on the highway and it chugs right up to 130. The speedo counting by 2 or 3 each tick. I'm 240 pounds. That's where I run out of courage. And that's, again, an honest assessment of skill set. And I respect the living hell out of that. And just enjoy it. Just ride it. I was there too, bro. I mean, shoot, same with me. Remember the first time I went 100 miles an hour, I thought I was Superman. I was like, holy shit, you know. But yeah, in a way, the 51 was the first bike that when I went from riding 600s and I started riding that 51, that's when things got pretty interesting for me. That's it. I wanted to keep going, but I sure as F didn't. I get it. Definitely. Man saying Zook Nation, that's more mafia. It's that the people saying Zook Nation for a long time. I've never been out to the Dragon. No, haven't. I'd like to though. Chef saying, oh, they'll bring it back. Maybe they will. Talking about the 14. Me saying my first real bike was a GSXR 750. Lucky Choice, still a homecoming every time I ride. And when I'm leveling up as a rider, the Gixxer meets you there in strides every time. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I don't think at this stage, I don't think I could feel right about myself without having the 600 and the 750. That's how much I like those bikes, man. And, I just don't look. If something changes and Suzuki does decide that they're going to start updating the Gixxer middleweights, I don't know. I don't know how that would play for a lot of guys. Because I don't know how that would fall in line in terms of cost. But I can tell you right now, they are so good to ride. And say what you will about the looks. I know that a lot of folks will say, I don't like the big old, the headlights or whatever. I'll tell you what, this thing riding it at night, this is function before form. This bike with that big old halogen headlight at night, man, it's like having an airplane's light on the front of the bike. That same old R3, when I was learning to ride, the first time I went 45 miles an hour on a normal city street, I looked down and just saw a giant belt sander beneath me. Talking about the road. That's exactly right. Oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I used to have all of this right here was all scarred up from me eating it on the street on my KX80 running from the cops. So saying 750 is a flagship at 100%. 750 is a flagship, a cornerstone. It's a living legend, for lack of a better way to put it, for a lot of folks. And it's weird. When it comes to the GSXR 750, it's real easy to understand why so many, and I'm one of them, I guess, but why so many leader bike guys end up funneling down into the GSXR 750 and the R1. I get it 100%. In fact, the R1, if I were to get another leader bike, it's going to have to be an R1. And the reason why is that it's such a smoother bike to ride. And it's a much more comfortable bike to ride in like longer distances. It's not as buzzy. The suspension's not as harsh. And I am such a dummy. I should have bought, there was a 2019 at the shop and I should have bought that thing. That's the one where I did the ride review on it. And I went back and that's the bike that started the braking thing on the back lot and all of that I do now. That all started with the R1. And the reason why I was doing that with that R1 is because I was having so much fun with that bike. And I really didn't want to let it go. In fact, I'm not kidding when I say this. There was about a 2-week span where I was really going back and forth on bringing that bike home. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to get rid of this bike and that bike to get it. Should I do it? And then had gone up to Stubbs to do a ride review and it wasn't there. And I went, shit. Because I had kind of made up my mind that I wanted the 2019. And I didn't really care. People were saying, well, the 19, this, that, tuning, whatever. And that bike was a little on the rough side, but I thought, you know what? I can bring it back. It's an easy fix and whatever. Anyway, but there's, I guess, the 19 versus the later bikes, or there's something. I didn't even care. It's like, look, it's an R1, sounds like an R1, rides like an R1. That's all I care about, because the details, the minutia of one bike making 5 or 8 more horsepower when you're already making that much power, again, it's going to get lost on me because this is what I gravitate towards now every time. So the extra power, yeah, it's nice to have, but I want the background. I want the theater of the R1. I want the sound of the R1, the smoothness of that engine. That's what I'm wanting. And so, and it's kind of a thing though. I mean, for guys that are into sport bikes, you either will, again, that whole funneling down thing, you either land on GSXR 750 or you land on R1, or you end up having one of each in the garage. That's seemingly how things end up working out. So, and it may be that, I don't want to get rid of that gray bike because it is such an amazing example of a GSXR 750. And my gosh, is it good looking. But if I were to move away from that bike and the 1000 and only get one bike to take their place, you already know that it would be an R1 of some vintage. That's just saying 750 looks so good. I agree. I love me some GSXR 750. Oh, me saying, yep, I found out the first two block, my first ride, mind blowing. When I just got myself, I had no expectations for this to be such great or gutted class of bike. Yeah, it's really good. And the funny thing though is that it never ceases to amaze me whenever I ride this bike, not only how good it is, but I want there to be more bikes like it. Like I'm wearing the shirt, right? And I got one sitting right behind me. It's not like I'm not a big Suzuki fan, but I'm a big Suzuki fan not because of the brand, but because of the products that they make. And they make the kind of bike that I want to ride that fits me. And so it's no different than me saying, yeah, this, I like, Reeboks because they fit greater. I like Chuck Taylors because they fit better than some other brand that might fit somebody else better. But it blows me away. I cannot get past the idea that other manufacturers don't make bikes like this, even though I understand it's a North American, Australian, it's a limited market for this GSXR 750 and GSXR 600. But I mean, Suzuki has kept making this bike steadily for the last 40 years. I mean, go figure, right? It's been in the American market for 40 years. Really, actually, for 2025 is the actual 40th anniversary. That's what year this one is. And the gray bike, by the way, is a 25. Oh, another fun fact, they're only a month apart from each other in build date. While saying, yeah, R1 70th anniversary, red and black, that is a darn good looking bike. The only problem with that bike is that a lot of folks that have them tend to think that they're worth about $3,000 or $4,000, even $5,000 more than they really are. But that is, I mean, that would be the one that I would like to have. But I mean, shit, man, an all black 19 or 20. I mean, let's talk. DM saying, to get my R1 to really move, I put carbon fiber rims on it. It's a blast. It gives me that small bike handling feel. That I bet it does. Holy cow, man. Carbon fiber rims. I tell you what, one of the things that I really liked about that R1, and it's funny because, this is what I'm talking about when I say the way that they fit. You get on it and the whole thing just felt natural when I got on that bike. It really did. It felt a lot like, it felt more like a smaller bike to me than even the GSXR 1000. But one of the things I liked about riding the R1 was on a GSXR 1000, even the R model, which is a little bit more compliant, believe it or not, than the standard A model, is even that bike can be a little bit harsh. And then under real hard acceleration, it can be a little bit dicey. The R1 felt compliant, and then in high load conditions, it felt real stable. And that was one of the things that I liked the most about that R1. And I was thinking, man, look, instead of trying to go for broke when it comes to power, just make it properly powerful with a tune and exhaust, and just get out there and enjoy the thing. You know, maybe get away with a slip on or a 3/4 system or something with it. Cause, you know, I just liked the bike so much. It's just, you know, certain bikes you gel with and others you do not. And that was one that I did. So again, for me, those are the two that I like the most. And again, you know, getting into the R9 thing, again, for some, it's a great bike. But here's the other thing. So what I was talking about, kind of singing the KTM's praises at the first part of the live show, but here's what I'll say. The problem that I have with the R9 isn't it's not that it's the R9 or has that engine or whatever, but it's really not when I say problem, it's something to be solved. Okay. It's not like I have issue with it. It's just like a math problem, right? The challenge, let me rephrase that. The challenge that I have with the R9 is that it does feel like it's limited. It doesn't have ram air. It's using a very, it's using an engine that is really not fit for the task per se, right? But it's getting put up against bikes that are built specific to the task, like the KTM, like the V2 Panigale, and it's holding its own just fine. So what does that tell you about the other two? So the R9 is able to keep up with its contemporaries in the super middleweight class, all the while being significantly less expensive. And so my challenge here is to try, I was talking about a possible, RCR into the fleet. The big thing keeping me from doing that is the price. I mean, look at how much that KTM costs, even without the technology pack. And the more I started looking at that, I mean, that's a $15,000 bike. Not even talking about freight and prep, which you're going to get hit with. That's another, I don't know, $1,000. Add tax on top of that, man, that's a $16,500 or $17,000 bike. Well, damn, I can get a CBR 1000 RR. Just a regular old CBR 1000, which is little. It's the size of this bike over here, whichever thumb points at it, this one. It's not much bigger than the GXXR 750, and it's a leader bike. It's a CBR 1000. So I don't know. I start to look at that. And I'm going, man. And y'all know how much I like that CBR 1000. The more I look at the KTM, I just kind of start to default to Japanese sport bikes. And I get it. It's a riding experience, and you pay whatever you pay for that bike. And I don't like to get into the whole money thing with this, because what I value in the KTM might be worth all that extra money. It's just, that's the bike that fit. That's the bike that calls to me. That's the siren sound for me. And if I got to pay an extra $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, then that's the way it is. So be it. I am not one to judge that, but I personally look at that and I'm just going, damn, that's a lot of money for a 130 horsepower bike. And that's, being generous with that number. Let's see. Amar's asking, does any other leader bike ride better than a CBR 1000? Well, it depends on what your definition of better is. I lean heavily towards the R1, and that's just because it fits me really well, but so does the CBR 1000. I would like the CBR 1000 to have a 190/55 tire on the back of it. If I were to ever get my hands on one, that is a modification I would have to make to that bike. But because of the sophisticated electronic suite on that bike, you may have to get it actually tuned for that tire. Weird stuff going on with these modern electronics, by the way, which is something I definitely don't have to worry about with this girl back over here. Boss saying Viva Rossi for helping make that sweet machine. Talking about the R1. Oh yeah. Oh, Felipe saying love the t-shirt, love the bike behind it. Yeah, like that bike a lot. Boss saying 18K for that KTM. Yeah, it's hard to justify. R9 brings a knife to an F16 battle. The thing is that the R9, I know how good that bike could be, but I also know, here's the thing. I also know that, maybe, just maybe, the R9, maybe it's a smarter play than I'm giving it credit for because it doesn't have the extra power. You're not burdened by having to manage that extra power with that bike. And you're also not burdened on having to, you don't have to rev it. Here's my thing with high RPM stuff though. If the engine is designed for it, it just feels natural for that bike. I've never had a problem revving anything. So, Break Stuff saying there's a good looking 2009 R1 for sale in Houston, yellow and black. That's a good looking bike, by the way. Yellow and black always looks good on an R9 or on a R1. Boss saying his RC8 floated a valve. Really? Damn. I'm surprised to hear that. Oh, yeah. Matt's saying Moto America and the BSB guys talking about the R9 say the biggest thing was doing a ram air intake. That bike should come with ram air. I mean, it's a sport bike. At this stage of the game, there's no reason to not have that. Mickey saying electronic suspension on 1,000 seems to be a pretty desirable option getting into 1,000cc power on the streets. Electronic suspension on 1,000. You know what's funny is I used to balk at it. I was like, you don't need that. Here's the thing. You kind of do. And again, I'm just talking about going from point A to point B, using the motorcycle as a legal road going conveyance here. Not talking about doing dumb stuff, hauling ass and doing any of that. I'm just talking about riding a motorcycle and dealing with the things that you have to deal with on the street. When you get out to your favorite B and C roads, click the switch and make everything firm up and have it do what it's supposed to do in that environment so that it's stable and safe for what you're going to be doing with it. But I mean, dang, man, can you at least make it to where it doesn't beat the hell out of you on the way out there? I used to not be like that about bikes, but I was also running motorcycles that weren't suspended like these more modern leader bikes are. Lupe said, I believe the R9 is aimed at the new generation rider. Anyone who has experienced what many of us have, GSX-R 750, etc., will never gel with the R9. And that is an unfortunate truth. I think you're right about that, Felipe, because, it's just one of those things where you don't, you're just not going to get it. It's not going to be something that is familiar to you. Matt saying, Ben Curry has a YouTube channel, some behind the scenes getting ready for upcoming BSB season. So here's the thing. One of the things that I like to see is all of the innovation that they're putting into the R9 to get it to where it is as competitive as it is. The funny thing about it is that they are throwing the kitchen sink at that bike to make it as good as it is. And it's really good in race trim, but it is nowhere near what the factory bike is. And what's funny, like the bike you can just go to a dealership and buy, right? The GSX-R 750, since they've let it back in, is the stock. It's this bike, right? Literally that bike right there with race plastics, a ride-by-wire throttle that reduces the throttle opening to 80%, and then bigger brakes and different suspension. That's it. It's literally a stock bike with a bunch of data logging equipment on it. It's kind of funny. Oh, Felipe say feels way more connected with his dad's old H1 from 1989. I get it. I totally get it. Modern Muscles asking, hey, what's up, man? Saying kind of left field, but any word on what might be coming out of Dodge's lineup for 2027? Are they too far back in the rear view to care now? So here's the thing. Dodge, oh gosh, Dodge is in a bad place right now because they're trying they came out with a car that nobody wanted in that EV thing. That's about to die, I think, here pretty soon. One of the things that they've got to do is they've got to figure out a way to market the new six-pack Chargers in a way that is going to be acceptable. I don't know how they go about doing that. And they're not really bringing cars out that a lot of folks are all that excited for. Lots of calibration issues. It's like they've lost their rudder. You know, they're just, I don't know. And again, I mean, I just went, with my truck, for example, standard output, that truck went 1280s this past weekend, and with a ton of 1290s. There's power to be found in that engine, but it's just at this stage of the game, a lot of folks are just kind of cutting ties with the brand, unfortunately. But good question. I'm not, the brand has passed me by, unfortunately. And they passed a lot of people by with not making the products that people were asking for. They're just out of left field coming up with stuff, and it's kind of striking a bit of a sour tone. Ball's asking, any love for the RSV4? I got nothing but love for the RSV4. One of the guys that I like to ride with has one, and I'm jealous of him every time I see that bike. I freaking love that bike. Love the way it sounds too. Not saying, yeah, they're basically only keeping the frame in their vids. Yeah, talking about the R9. It's in DM. Yeah, it's an RSV factory, and I just like that bike a lot. Flip was saying, love the RSV4. Back in the day, I nearly bought an RSV V2. Oh yeah, those are nice bikes for sure. Yeah, big fan of that bike. Real big fan of that bike. But with that, guys, I have got to wrap it up. I got to get back to work. As the weather starts to get better, I'm going to be doing more ride reviews. So be on the lookout for those. We're going to try to get a nice mix of different kinds of bikes in there too. Some adventure style bikes, AKA the sport utility bikes. We're going to have, I try to get maybe some cruisers in there as well as sport bikes and anything else that seems to show up. So I'll definitely be looking forward to bringing you guys some new bikes once again this weather warms up, quits raining and thundering and lightning and all that. But with that, guys, y'all get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, I got to wrap it up. Thanks again to all of you guys for hanging out with me. Y'all take care. Oh, Felipe's saying it's 5:30 in the afternoon in New Zealand. Nice. Shit, man, it's time to hit. It's freaking Miller time, baby. Let's do. All right, guys, y'all take care.